Yehezkel, Ezekiel, chapter 1. If ever there's a book in the Bible that makes it absolutely clear to me that he is Yah and I am but a child, it's the book of Ezekiel. Before we get into the book of Ezekiel, a little bit of background on Ezekiel, or Yehezkel. Ezekiel, the prophet, the priest, born possibly 622 BCE, died roughly around 570 BCE at approximately the age of 51 or 52. And let's see. A little bit from Wiki. The author of the book of Ezekiel presents himself as Ezekiel, the son of Buzi, born into a priestly or Cohen lineage. Apart from identifying himself, the author gives a date for the first divine encounter, which he presents in the 13th year. Ezekiel describes his calling to be a prophet by going into great detail about his encounters with God and 4 living creatures, and with 4 wheels that stayed beside the creatures. According to the Bible, Ezekiel and his wife lived during the Babylonian captivity on the banks of Kivar Canal in Tel Aviv, near Nippur, with other exiles from the kingdom of Judah. There is no mention of him having any offspring. Ezekiel's 30th year is given as the 5th year of the exile of Judah's king Jehoiakim by the Babylonians, counting the years after the exile in 598 BC, that is from 597 to 593 BCE. The last recorded prophecy of Ezekiel dates to April 571 BCE, 16 years after the destruction of Jerusalem. On the basis of dates given in the book of Ezekiel, his span of prophecies can be calculated to have occurred over the course of about 22 years, starting in 593 BCE. Now, there's some interesting stuff regarding the extra-biblical traditions of Ezekiel. And the first is that he may have been, so he's the son of Buzi. Buzi is almost like a slang. It means like, or to booze is like disdained. Somebody that was not appreciated, looked down upon. Some rabbis and in some rabbinic culture say that Ezekiel's dad was the prophet Jeremiah. I don't know. That's just what they say. Now, of course, Yehezkel, Ezekiel, comes immediately after the book of Jeremiah, which is when the kingdom of Judah, the Yehudim, go into the Babylonian captivity, Babylonian exile. Now, Ezekiel, again, is part of this small remnant. And so he's prophesying to the house of Judah, the Yehudim. Yahweh, God, just told us in Jeremiah, Jeremiah 48, 49, 50, 51, all the things he's going to do to the Amorites and the Hittites and the Moabites and to the Kasdim, the Babylonians, and to the Assyrians and all these, the Philistines, all these enemies of his chosen people. His chosen people didn't believe him, didn't keep his word, which is why they went into captivity in the first place. So it's almost as if now in the first chapter of Ezekiel, Yehezkel, we see the strength of Yah. Like, oh, you didn't believe that I could do these things? Check out who I am. Now, we're going to read Ezekiel 1 and probably 2 today. And it makes sense to me why so many people think that this is aliens. I'm not diving into that rabbit hole here, but I think that aliens, it's entirely possible that those are demonic entities, if you will, with otherworldly technology. And here's maybe an argument for that. We know that the enemy, Hasatan, Satan, is a copycat, right? Everybody talks about the mark of the beast, but nobody talks about how in Revelation the Father marks his people in the forehead first, right? The whole basis of the original sin is, did God really say, like just taking the truth and just twisting it just a little bit? The enemy's a copycat. And so maybe what we see here in Ezekiel being this divine eminence of Yah and these 4 angels that come to Ezekiel. Well, this is the word of God, right? We have all agreed on some level that every word of this Bible is true. There's the doctrine of inerrancy, I think codified in 1977, that basically says Christendom believes that every word of this Bible is true. All right, so if we're operating from that worldview, is it possible that what we experience now today as aliens, and I don't want to jump into this rabbit hole here in this video. I don't want to jump into this rabbit hole in the comments. Let's please stick to the word of Yah here. By the way, when people comment in the comments on the Bible videos about anything that has nothing to do with the Bible, nothing to do, if it's an out of context comment, I just delete them. Okay, so these videos are about the Bible. That's what they're about. And the Bible says this stuff happened. Is it possible that the enemy and those that he is in league with here on earth are copycatting the Father's divine eminence here and these 4 living creatures, these 4 angels, with technology instead? I think that has a lot to do with what we see in Revelation. And that the days would be shortened because even the very elect, us, would be deceived. You also get the Eric Von Daniken types, you know, that dude from the History Channel with the crazy hair, Mario Tsoukalakalokalos, aliens, man, you know, that guy. You get that crowd here making arguments about, you know, chariots of the gods and all that other crap, in large part supported by Ezekiel chapter 1. Because this stuff is extraordinary. And again, I don't know if there's another book in the Bible that makes me feel more like a child sitting at the foot of the master than the book of Ezekiel, because I don't have an explanation for this. I've done a fair bit of research on this. I've looked at the commentaries from Matthew Henry and from Charles Spurgeon and several others, and nobody has a good explanation for what's happening here in Ezekiel chapter 1. And that ultimately is what faith is, right? It's belief without logical explanation. Our relationship with Yah isn't logical. Faith isn't logical. Because if I could wrap my mind around him, now I'm the Elohim in this relationship, right? Deuteronomy 29:29 says that the secret matters belong to Elohim, but what has been revealed to us and our children forever to do all the words of this Torah. In other words, we know enough about Yah and his character to do what he has told us to do. The secret matters are his. Now you balance that with the Proverbs, that it is the glory of Elohim to hide a matter and the glory of kings to seek it out. Doesn't mean we shouldn't yearn to know more, but it does mean that if we can't fill that gap in our Greek Western Logos mindset with understanding, air quote, mental assent to this concept, doesn't mean we should just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because if I can comprehend Elohim, who's the God now? I promise you it's not me. Okay? So with that 9-minute preamble, Yehezkel, Ezekiel chapter 1. And it came to be in the 30th year, in the fourth month, on the 5th of the new moon, as I, Yehezkel, Ezekiel, was among the exiles from Judah, by the river Kiver, the heavens were opened up, and I saw visions of Elohim. Visions of Elohim. So again, we'll just foot stomp that one. On the 5th of the new moon, in the 5th year of King Jehoiakim's exile, the word of Yahweh came expressly to Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Kasdim, the Babylonians, by the river Kiver. And the hand of Yahweh came upon him there, came upon Ezekiel. And I looked, Ezekiel, and I looked, and I saw a whirlwind coming out of the north. A whirlwind. Yahweh comes in the clouds, right? Was not Elijah taken up by a whirlwind? He drops his mantle and Elisha picks it up and receives a double portion of the Spirit that was upon him. And I looked and I saw a whirlwind coming out of the north, a great cloud, Yahweh, with fire flashing itself, And brightness was all around it, and out of the midst like glowing metal, out of the midst of the fire, and out of the middle of it came what looked like 4 living creatures. And this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man. And each one had 4 faces, and each one had 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, and the soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot. And they sparkled like the appearance of polished bronze. And under their wings, on their 4 sides, were the hands of a man. And each of the 4 faces and wings, their wings touched one another. They did not turn when they went, but each one went straight forward. In the likeness of their faces, the face of a man, and each of the 4 had the face of a lion on the right side, and each of the 4 had the face of an ox on the left side, and each of the 4 had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces. Their wings were spread upward. 2 of each touched one another, and 2 covered their bodies. Now let's look at a cross-reference here, Revelation 4, on the likeness of their faces. That's Matthew, not Revelation. There we go. Revelation 4, verse 7. Now this is John's vision that John is having in the Isle of Patmos in 90 AD. So about 700 years after Ezekiel and about 60 years after the time of Yeshua. And the first living creature was like a lion, and the second living creature was like a calf, and the third living creature had a face like a man, and the fourth living creature was like a flying eagle. Now again, 4 represents the earth, the 4 corners of the earth, the 4 winds, etc., etc. These are all representative of certain tribes, by the way. Dan is the eagle. Judah is the lion, the glory, right? And the eagle represents like speed and agility. The lion represents glory. Ephraim is the ox, which represents power. And Reuben is the man, which represents wisdom. So we've got speed and agility and glory and power and wisdom in this imagery here. So who is attending to Yah? Speed and power and agility and glory and wisdom. Again, think that the Yehudim, the tribe of Judah, has just been exiled into captivity after being told that not only was Yah going to do all these terrible things to their enemies, but that he would ransom them out of the hand of the Babylonians, the world's superpower at this time. Okay, dude, how about a dose of speed and agility and glory and power and wisdom in an inexplicable show of might to maybe get your attention that one might believe? And we'll see here that Ezekiel, Yehezkel, is going to get a commission to go and prophesy to the people of the tribe of Judah, the remnant and those in captivity. Ezekiel needs to believe Yah, right? It's for Ezekiel's understanding of the power and authority of Yah. Ezekiel has to believe Yah because he's about to go be the mouthpiece for Yah. And so the Father is showing him these seraphim angels, if you will, very similar to what John sees in Revelation chapter 4. And the 4 living creatures, each having 6 wings, were covered with eyes all around and within. And they do not cease day or night, saying, set apart, set apart, set apart, holy, 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 Yahweh El Shaddai, who was, and who is coming. And when the living creatures give esteem and respect and thanks to him, Yahweh, who sits on the throne, who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders, which we talked about when we read Revelation chapter 4, fall down before him who sits on the throne and bow before him who lives forever and ever. And they cast their crowns before the throne, saying, you are worthy, O Yahweh, to receive esteem and respect and power, for you have created all, and because of your desire they are and were created. So this imagery in Revelation chapter 4 is all about the power and esteem and glory and wisdom of Yah. And what John is seeing in Revelation chapter 4 is directly tied into Yehezkel Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 10. So back to Ezekiel. Such were their faces. Their wings were spread upward. 2 of each touched one another, and 2 covered their bodies. And each one went straight forward, going wherever the Spirit was to go, and they did not turn when they went. And the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of torches, moving back and forth among the living creatures. And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went lightning. And the living creatures ran back and forth like the appearance of a flash of lightning. And I looked at the living creatures and saw a wheel on the earth beside each living creature with its 4 faces. It's easy to understand why somebody might think, oh, these are aliens who got out of their spaceships. That's not what this says, but that's certainly what it sounds like in our modern understanding of these types of activities. The appearance of the wheels and their works was like the appearance of beryl, and all 4 had the same form. The appearance of their works was, as it were, a wheel in the middle of a wheel. When they went in any one of 4 directions. They did not turn aside when they went. And their rims were high and awesome, and their rims were covered with eyes all around the 4 of them. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went beside them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Wherever the Spirit was to go, they went, because there the Spirit went. And the wheels were lifted together with them. And the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. I understand the argument. I'm just going to default to what Yah said, not what man said on any of this. Even if, again, I can't understand it. I can't explain it. When those went, these went. When the living creatures went, the wheels went. When those stood, these stood. And when those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up together with them. For the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. And a likeness was over the heads of the living creatures, an expanse like the appearance of an awesome crystal stretched out over their heads. People have said this is like a spacesuit with a clear lens helmet over the top. And under the expanse their wings were straight one toward another. Each one had 2 which covered one side, and each one had 2 which covered the other side of the body. And when they went, I heard the noise of their wings like the noise of many waters, like the voice of the Almighty, a tumult like the noise of an army. And when they stood still, they let down their wings. Almost as if this is like the sound of jet engines, jet propulsion, some people have said. Again, I'll foot stomp this. I don't know. I don't know. But I do know this. Ezekiel had a real and meaningful encounter with the creator of the universe. And so is this technology that we see today that's all hush-hush covered up, Area 51 type, Groom Lake type stuff, is all of that just man-made copies, technological copies of the esteem of Yahweh. We see technology, the corrupted flesh, CRISPR, gene splicing, and in the end times, it shall be like unto the days of Noah, corrupted flesh. Yeah, we're doing that. Like, humanity is doing that. That is happening right now. So just because there's a technological explanation for something doesn't mean that that's Yah. In fact, I would argue that the technology is oftentimes the opposite of Yah. It's a copy of Yah. And a voice came from above the expanse that was over their heads. When they stood, they dropped their wings. And above the expanse over their heads was the likeness of a throne, in appearance like a sapphire stone. And on the likeness of the throne was a likeness as the appearance of a man high above it. And from the appearance of his waist and upward I saw his, capital H, his, Yahweh's. And from the appearance of Yahweh's waist and upward I saw what looked like glowing metal with the appearance of fire all around within it. And from the appearance of his, Yahweh's waist and downward I saw what looked like fire and brightness all around. As the appearance of a rainbow in a cloud on a rainy day, so was the appearance of the brightness all around it. This was the appearance of the likeness of the esteem of Yahweh. And when I saw it, I fell on my face, and I heard the voice of one, Yahweh, speaking. And he, Yahweh, said to me, Son of man, stand on your feet so that I speak to you. And the Spirit entered into me when he, Yahweh, spoke to me. The Spirit entered into him. I thought the Spirit was a New Testament construct. Doesn't it come in Acts chapter 2 on Pentecost? That's Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, that is commanded in multiple places for you to observe. Leviticus 23, Deuteronomy 14, It's the day that the Father makes covenant with his people. It's the day that Isaac went up with Abraham up the mountain. It's the day that Moshe received the Torah on Mount Sinai. It's the day that Noah came out of the ark and made a burnt offering. It's Shavuot. And interestingly enough, in the New Testament, after the death, burial, and resurrection of Messiah, his apostles were all in one place of one accord on the day of Shavuot. So I guess that wasn't nailed to the cross, huh? Acts chapter 2, read it. That is not the first time that the Spirit is seen in the Bible. The Spirit is all throughout the Word. 2 verse 2, and the Spirit entered into me when he, Yahweh, spoke to me and set me on my feet, and I heard him, Yahweh, who was speaking to me. And he, Yahweh, said to me, Son of man, I am sending you to the children of Israel, to a nation of rebels who have rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me until this day. And the children are stiff of face and hard of heart, to whom I am sending you. And you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh. And they, whether they hear or whether they refuse, for they are a rebellious house, shall know that a prophet has been in their midst. And you, Son of man, do not be afraid of them, nor be afraid of their words, though thistles and thorns are with you, and you dwell among scorpions. Do not be afraid of their words, or discouraged by their looks, for they are a rebellious house. And you shall speak my words to them, whether they hear or whether they refuse, for they are rebellious. And you, Son of man, hear what I am speaking to you. Do not be rebellious like that rebellious house. Open your mouth and eat what I am giving you. And I looked, and I saw a hand stretched out to me, and see, a scroll of a book was in it. And he, Yahweh, spread it before me, and it was written on the inside and on the outside. And written on it were lamentations, and mourning, and woe. That sounds a lot like Revelation, doesn't it? In fact, Revelation chapter, what do we got here? Chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. Again, the vision of John. And I, John, went to the messenger and said to him, Give me the little book. And he said to me, Take it and eat, and it shall make your stomach bitter, but it shall be as sweet as honey in your mouth. And I took the little book out of the messenger's hand and ate it, and it was sweet as honey in my mouth. But when I had eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. And he said to me, You have to prophesy again concerning many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. And this is in the midst of Revelation 10, with this strong messenger coming down out of the cloud, 7 thunders speaking, 7 thunders spoke. And the messenger who I saw standing in the sea lifted up his right hand to heaven and swore by him, Yahweh, who lives forever and ever, who created the heaven and what is in it, and the earth and what is in it, and the sea and what is in it, that there shall be no further delay, but in the days of the sounding of the 7th messenger, when he is about to sound, the secret of Elohim shall also be ended, as he declared to his servants the prophets. This is the coming judgments. This bitter scroll. Tastes like honey. Sounds good, but it's bitter in your stomach. Back to Ezekiel 2, verse 10. And he, Yahweh, spread it before me, and what was written on the inside and the outside, and written on it were lamentations and mourning and woe. Bad stuff fixing to happen. I guess we'll do 3 as well. And he, Yahweh, said to me, Son of man, eat what you find, eat this scroll, and go speak to the house of Israel. And I opened my mouth, and he fed me the scroll. And he said to me, Son of man, feed your stomach and fill your stomach with this scroll that I am giving you. And I ate it, and it was sweet as honey in my mouth. Revelation 10. John, the apostle. And he, Yahweh, said to me, Son of man, go to the house of Israel, and you shall speak to them my words. For you are not sent to a people of foreign speech or in difficult language, but to the house of Israel. You know how to talk to these people. Not to many people of foreign speech and of difficult language, whose words you do not understand. If I had rather sent you to them, they would have listened to you. But the house of Israel is going to refuse to listen to you, for they refuse to listen to me. For all the house of Israel are hard of head and hard of heart. This is why Ezekiel needed this awesome show of power and glory and strength from Yah, that he would believe, so that in the face of this adversity, trying to prophesy to the house of Israel, who's not going to hear him, he would still believe. There's always a remnant. The Father always preserves a remnant. There are always those who are diligently obedient and believe in him. Verse 8, see, I shall make your face as hard as their faces, and your forehead as hard as their foreheads. Like adamant stone, harder than flint, I shall make your forehead. Do not be afraid of them, nor be discouraged at their looks, for they are a rebellious house. And he, Yahweh, said to me, Son of man, receive into your heart all my words that I speak to you, and hear with your ears. And go, come to the exiles, to the children of your people, and speak to them, and say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh, whether they hear or whether they refuse. Again, thus said the Master Yahweh. This is in the Bible. These are not aliens that we're dealing with here in Ezekiel 1, 2, and 3. This is Yahweh, the Lord our God. Yahweh is a warrior. Yahweh is his name. Exodus 15, verse 3. This is God speaking. Well, what if he's one of multiple pantheons of gods and blah, blah? No. Yahweh is one. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. One. There is no God but God. That is the first command in Exodus chapter 20. There may be a whole bunch of copycats, but Yah is one. Yah created all of it, the heavens and the earth and everything that's in it. We just saw that in Revelation chapter 10. There is no God but God. Verse 12. And the Spirit lifted me up, and behind me I heard the sound of a great rumbling voice. Blessed be the esteem of Yahweh from his place, and the sound of the wings of the living creatures touching one another, and the sound of the wheels beside them, and the sound of a great rushing. And the Spirit lifted me up and took me away, and I went in bitterness in the heat of my spirit, while the hand of Yahweh was strong upon me. Again, some would say sounds like a flight in a spaceship. And I came to the exiles at Tel Aviv, who were dwelling by the river Kiver, and I sat where they were sitting, and sat there stunned among them 7 days. For 7 days he's in a stupor after this wild ride that he just got from Yah. And it came to be at the end of 7 days that the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel, and you shall hear a word from my mouth, and you shall warn them from me. When I say to the wrong, you shall certainly die, and you have not warned him, nor spoken to warn the wrong from his wrong way, to save his life, that same wrong man shall die in his crookedness, and his blood I require at your hand. Ezekiel, you are responsible to speak the word of Yah to all of these people. If this man dies without hearing my word, that blood is on you. Talk about a commission. But if you have warned the wrong, and he does not turn from his wrong, nor from his wrong way, he shall die in his crookedness, and you have delivered your being. That responsibility is not on you. This comes a lot back to us evangelizing and sharing the gospel. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But your job is to lead them to the water, the living water. If they drink, that's great. But your job is to lead them to the water. Your job is to say what Yah tells you to say. It's not on you if somebody hears you or doesn't hear you. It's on you to speak the word. And when a righteous one turns from his righteousness and shall do unrighteousness, what's righteousness? Blamelessly walking in the commands of Yah. So when one who is blamelessly walking in the commands of Yah stops walking in the commands of Yah, when I, Yahweh, have put a stumbling block before him, my brothers, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, for the proving of your faith. When Yah puts a stumbling block in front of you, it's just so hard. I just can't. How am I supposed to believe in a loving God when it's this hard? He's proving your faith. When I have put a stumbling block before him, he shall die. Because you did not warn him, he shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he has done is not remembered, and his blood I require at your hand. Warn everybody, Ezekiel. But if you have warned the righteous one, that the righteous should not sin, what is sin? 1 John 3 verse 4, sin is lawlessness. If you've warned the one blamelessly walking in the commands of Yah not to be lawless, and he did not sin, he was not lawless, he shall certainly live, because he has been warned, and you have delivered your being, you have delivered your soul, you fulfilled your responsibility here. he shall live. So righteousness leads to life. Yet another biblical example of this. And the hand of Yahweh came upon me there. And he, Yahweh, said to me, Arise, go out into the plain so that I might speak to you there. So I got up, and I went out into the plain, and see, the esteem of Yahweh stood there, like the esteem which I saw by the river Kiver, and I fell on my face. And the Spirit entered me and set me on my feet. Get up, boy. And spoke with me, and said to me, Go, shut yourself inside your house. And you, O son of man, see, they shall put cords on you and bind you with them so that you do not go out into their midst. They're going to tie you up so you don't go talk to them. And I make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth so that you shall be dumb and not be a reprover to them, for they are a rebellious house. You're not going to be able to speak except when I tell you to speak. But when I speak with you, I open your mouth, and you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh. He who hears, let him hear, and he who refuses, let him refuse, for they are a rebellious house. That is Ezekiel 1, 2, and 3. I guess we'll reiterate for a fourth time. This is Yah. This is not chariots of the gods. This is not aliens. This is Yah. If there are other things that are copycats of Yah, that doesn't surprise me, because that example is found myriads of places in our daily lives. Everything's competing to be God. Everything is trying to be a copycat of God. But there is no God but God. Moshe asks him in the cleft of the rock, when the Father reveals himself to him, What shall I call you? I am that I am. I am. I exist. I am real. I am the Elohim. Not an Elohim, the Elohim. I am God. I don't know what else to say about this, other than it's fascinating. And I have no explanation for it whatsoever. And I guess, much like Ezekiel, it's not my job to have an explanation for it. It's my job to speak the word of Yahweh. And if it's received, it's received. If it's not, it's not. Y'all have a blessed day. Shalom.